This next slide is the one you need. And matter of fact, if I was going to make a listing presentation, it's the only slide I need to win a listing. It's the only one. But you'll notice I need 3 people to help me make this listing presentation, including myself. This is what is called a core team. It is the team type we see most frequently. So I bring my core team in, and it very well could be a project team. So we don't fly in formation all the time together, but we have decided that we bring complementary skills to this assignment. And we sit down in our conference room and we say, here's what the client says they want. Not what we want to tell them. We're not going to make a broker-centric presentation. We're going to make a client-centric presentation. So we go into our conference room and we say, here is the compass heading of the client that we've interviewed. So we go in and we decide who is going to be primarily doing the marketing on this assignment, who's going to be primarily responsible for business development, and who's going to be primarily responsible for transaction management. So we make the decision who's going to be our tight end, who's going to be the left tackle. We decide who's playing which position. And ideally, and again we'll talk about this in depth in team brokerage, you put a person on the team that is best for that position. But the biggest mistake that brokers make is 2 ADD brokers get together. They come together, call themselves a team, but the fact of the matter is they're a partnership who's doing nothing more than splitting commissions. A true team is where you are just the best when it comes to business development. I am very good at reporting and putting together packages and doing analysis. That's what you want to put together. You don't want to put together 2 brokers that are both great at business development, then who's providing the other services that are required in the assignment? So I have thoughtfully put together a team that brings a variety of skill sets. And I might be the senior. I said, I want to start off introducing you to Greg. Greg is without a doubt the finest commercial real estate marketing individual you could find west of the Mississippi. And I'm going to let Greg talk about exactly how we're going to pursue the marketing of this space. Boom. And I am generous in the way I turn it over to my team members. And Greg gets into, we're going to do this, and we want to put together a property website, and we've kind of done a storyboard on that. We've actually put together some e-teasers. We've already done, and I'm proud to show you, we've put together a little 90-second drone, and then you launch that real quick and that's going to be embedded in our e-gifts that we send out. And now the client is, whoa. Now I want to turn it over to Paul. And Paul is, I hate to be dishonest, but Paul is consuming way too much caffeine. And he is a calling machine, all right? He wakes up in the morning, he starts on his cell phone. He is on his cell phone making outbound calls. As he comes to his desk, he puts down his phone and he goes to his headset, and he's known in the office as the machine. And then what he does is then he starts knocking on doors. If the weather's bad, you know where Paul's going to be. He's going to be out in the street, and his job is to tee me up. As a matter of fact, Greg's job and Paul's job is both to tee me up and get me leads, because my job is to be involved in the tours and the negotiation and to manage what the team is doing day to day. High hurdle number 2. We want this assignment. But no matter who you hire, please make sure they give you a measurable plan. And they report to you monthly that they're putting the right denominators into the marketplace and they're moving to your net operating income target, which in this case is $710,000. Y'all with me? I have seen owners stop the presentation right here. Right here. Even though you got 20 minutes left on the clock, they stop you right here. And guess what they tell you? Guess what they tell you? I'm serious. I'm not making this up. I've had owners here say, you'll do this? I've never seen this before. This is the most incredible thing. And watch carefully. You see where we've got, I'm going to make so many calls and generate so many proposals. Well, you notice we've got actual sales. You want to know why we got actual sales? We actually do send a report out at the end of the month. And so, Fred, I tell you, I'm going to do so many proposals. Guess what? However many proposals we tell you we're going to say, we're going to tell you at the end of the month how many we did. And you can come left mouse click on the actual cell and see the proposal that was submitted. This is what today's owners want. Who's in the business less than 2 years? I want all of you to make an honest listing presentation once in your career. Okay? Have y'all ever heard an honest listing presentation? Never? You want to hear it? Greg, I appreciate the time that you're giving me to make this honest listing presentation. There's a lot that I'm going to tell you about what we're going to do, and we all know I'm not going to do it. I'm going to tell you about my platform, which I have no idea what it is or where it is, but everybody around the shop keeps saying about our platform. So I don't know if it's electronic or what the hell it is. I don't know if it's something that NASA is going to loan us. I just don't know. But we got a platform. What we're really going to do is put up a sign. That's all we're going to do. And you and I are going to pray that something happens. Now, I'm going to send out a few random emails. Who they go to, I don't know. I don't think anybody's reading them. You know what I mean? We're going to do a 6-month listing, okay? Now, in that 6 months, please don't be calling me asking me what I'm doing. You want to know why? Pisses me off. I promise you, I will not call you in the middle of your day asking you what you're doing. What an aggravation when you call me and ask. It's none of your, what am I doing? It's none of your business what I'm doing. You will hear from me once. It's in the 5th month. And I've got a real story I'm going to tell you. And you're going to believe it, which is crazy. But I'm going to call and tell you I got a wonderful prospect who loves the building, but I don't want to spend that much time with it if you don't renew the listing. Now, the truth be known, my friends at church see my name on the sign. You'd have to admit it's a little embarrassing if the sign comes down after 6 months, wouldn't you? You wouldn't want to embarrass me. I'm not worried about you, I'm worried about me. And so, what do you think? When do you want me to get started? That's an honest listing presentation. And the good news is, all owners know that you play with the house money. They know. And when they see this, that's why they stop you midstream and just say, stop. I've seen enough. And so you're telling me now what needs to be done. You're going to report to me each month on what you did relative to what you said you were going to do. We're off to the races. Let's get it done. Now, I would not do this for a small, unimportant listing. It's too much work. It's way too much work. And I'm here to tell you, this best practice is not for a solo broker. It's too much work. You've got to develop the plan. You've got to then gather up the daily activity. You've got to then report to the client. Just like in property management, you've got to explain the way the variance is, where you said you were going to do 5 tours and you did 4. And the one piece of advice I want to give you is when you build the plan, you're not going to win the assignment because you were aggressive in your denominators. Determine what you think is going to be the denominator, 5 tours, and say in your plan, I'm going to do 3 tours. Because when you report, I want you to always be over. I never want you to be under. Fair enough? They are not seeing another broker coming in and doing anything close to this because it requires too much work. It requires too much discipline. And if, let's say, the 8 or 9 listings that you have, you probably would only use this best practice on a third of them. But these would be the 3 that these are the difference makers. These are the ones I want. I get the property management, and I'll end up with the investment sale. This is the one that I want. And watch carefully. I run my numbers, and I come to the understanding I'm not doing 3 leases between now and the end of the year. The market's too soft. I'm going to do 2. So then guess what I'm going to do? Then I'll put 2 leases, then I'll come in with another column, and I'll say, listen, as hard as we're going to try, based upon what's in the marketplace, we expect to do 2 leases by year's end, which would give you $650,000 of annualized NOI. And then you take it out to March of next year, and you say we would expect to do the 3rd lease February, March of next year, which would then give you your $710,000 of NOI. They're still going to give you the listing. You want to know why? You're the first sophisticated broker to come in there and really understand the denominators and the ratios in this marketplace and give them an accurate forecast. And for the property manager who has never or rarely successfully integrated with leasing, now understands, now I've got a real number I can put into the budget. Operating expenses are easy to put in the budget, and when you're off the NOI target, guess what the poor property manager's got to do? They've got to eliminate the window washing, They've got to tell the cleaning crews just to vacuum every other day. I know exactly what's going on. And the reason property management is having to lean on the expense side of the equation is because leasing is not playing full court press. We're playing with the house, their money. And the client deserves more. And I'm telling you, I'm not expecting you to do this on every listing. But you're taking these listings, some of you have too many. Give them back or give them to somebody else. But it's not fair to the owner to take a listing and them not to hear from you for 6 months. Unless that's what you told them in the presentation. This is a long shot. It's got environmental issues, the submarket is whacked out. I'll put a sign up, but don't expect much to happen. If you said that, I'm cool with it. But to say, oh, we got a platform and we're going to get after it and we're expecting all kinds of wonderful things to happen, and you know in your heart of hearts it's not going to happen, you don't need to tell them. You better be planning on being in this business for a career. And I got to tell you, the only thing you have is your reputation. And I got to tell you, it follows you wherever you go, just so you know. This is my 41st year, and those missteps that I've made, I still regret. I can still tell you, and there's just too many of them to talk about right now, but they all come back to get you every single time. I'm going to tell you one right now. I'm managing a property. We had a firm that we sold to CB in New Orleans many, many years ago. We were managing anything we get our hands on, and after a while we won 3 huge apartment complexes. We went from just managing a bunch of small stuff to about 1,500 units overnight. So all the small stuff, I sent him a letter and just said, both of us have the right to terminate this management agreement, and our fee is no longer 6%, it's 10%. Several months go by and we're putting together shopping centers, and I was the general partner, and we were having limited partners that would come in, and a dear friend of mine, Gary Mixon, who was with State Farm, said, Mike, State Farm guys want to come in and buy your next center with you. And I'm setting up a luncheon, all right? So they set up the luncheon. And I'm making the presentation about this great shopping center, had a grocery store, had a drugstore, on and on and on. And just as the document was going around and I'm raising the money, I mean, this is the easiest limited partnership I'd ever put together. One of the guys who I stiffed a year before and jacked his management fee from 6 to 10 just says, just want to tell you a little something about Mike Lipsey. He was managing a fourplex, important to me, not that important to Mike. And I mean to tell you, out of the clear blue, from this big shot over here, I get a letter that says he's raising my fee from 6 to 10%. And it really left me in a bind because I didn't know what other management company I was going to go with. Y'all can decide to invest with Mike if you want to. I've decided not to. I mean to tell you, it's like someone died in the room. It was uncomfortable. And in a heartbeat, and I mean in a heartbeat, I knew this deal was not going to happen. And Gary looks at me and I look at Gary, and it must have been very uncomfortable for him also. And he says, Mike, why don't you do this? Why don't you go back to your office and I'll give you a call and give you some feedback. Well, I knew it was going to be, And he said exactly what I deserved. He said, Joe killed it. I said, you know what? I had it coming. I mean, as I look back a year ago, I should have handled it much differently. Probably should have picked up the phone. Joe, you've been a great client of mine for a long time. Let me come visit with you and just talk about some ways that we can maybe transition to another firm, or maybe we can step the fee from 6 to 7. I mean, that's where we learn our most valuable lessons. So I'm cool with we making a mistake, but not making the exact same mistake over and over again. But as brokers, we keep repeating the same mistake over and over again, and it's in the listing process. We're leading the prospect to believe great things are going to happen because of our platform and what we did 10 years ago. And the fact of the matter is we see these signs falling down 18 months later. Most of the stuff that we're working on is pretty big stuff but in your market you're saying, Mike, this isn't JP Morgan, this isn't General Motors, Rin-Sin, but this is important to me. And I'm competing against 1 or 2 other firms. And $50,000 is a pretty nice commission for me. I'm going to use this. Or you might say, Lipsey, I'm not going to use it because the fee on its best day would only be $25,000, and I can't justify making that commitment. But I will be candid with them in the presentation saying, we'll do what we can, but just don't expect a lot to happen, because this could be a tough listing. So you've got to make the personal decision what's big to you. You know, in 15 years from now, you're going to find that size on the transactions get better each year because you get more confidence, you get more experience, and you're doing larger transactions, you know, 10 years from now than what you're doing today. Does that address the sort of kind of answer? So if it's important, don't be concerned about was it 25 million. We do a lot of work with what's called PCG, which is private client. They have convinced me and others, Mike, I don't want anything bigger than 25 million. I mean, they have mathematically said, I make more by selling a $9 million property than I would a $90 million property. And so for those, when I work with PCG, to them, a $9 million listing is pretty doggone important. And they're as passionate about winning that as a capital markets broker would be going after a $90 million listing. And so what best practice are you going to use? Because there are some very good firms that go after a $9 million investment sales, all right? Let me just tell you what, you used to be with a very good one. So you better bring your good stuff because it is competitive out there. I mean, if you look across the landscape, and we do training for almost every regional and national firm, you name one, we probably work with them at some point in time, they're good. Let me tell you what, there is no soft competition out there. I mean, just look at who's in the class today. We've got a full class. I mean, all of you come from a variety of firms. I wouldn't want to compete with any of you. So what best practice do I need to bring to show I'm more innovative and more committed than my competitor? Great question. The question is, Mike, where do these numbers or where do the ratios come from? Who does leasing in here? Jeff, what kind of leasing do you do? Office leasing. What's your average size lease?
It's anywhere from probably 1,500 square feet to 15,000.
All right, so let's call your sweet spot 7,500 square feet. All right? For you, and you come from which market?
San Diego.
San Diego. Don't worry about anybody else in this room but you. To do a 7,500 square foot lease, do you have to do any negotiation? Do any of them fall through? Watch this. Jeff just said for every lease he signs, he has to do 2 negotiations because one closes, one falls through. So now we've got Jeff's first ratio, which is 2 to 1. You do proposals that have signature blocks? Every proposal that you submit, does it go to a full-blown negotiation? No. Just ballpark, instinct. How many proposals do you think you have to generate before they say, let's get serious, let's negotiate a lease? 4 to 1. We got his second ratio. You have to show the space? Everyone you show the space to, do they want a proposal? So how many times do you think you have to show the space before someone says, I want a proposal?
3 or 4 times.
We got the next ratio. The ratios come from the following: the quality of the property, the velocity of the marketplace, and the experience level of the broker. You give me a great property in a marketplace that's 3% vacant. With a 20-year experienced broker, you got some tight ratios. You give me a junky property in a 16% vacant marketplace with a broker with less than 2 years in experience, I'm going to have to show you a lot of numbers. I've got to put a lot of calories in that marketplace to get the property leased, right? And those are the 3 variables. And sometimes you'll have a good broker, bad property, kind of so-so marketplace, you know. But nirvana is great broker, great market, great property. That's when you want to be in the listing side of the business. Because that's when you control the inventory. You're saying the marketplace and its velocity is going to lease this building for me, right? Particularly sophisticated clients. They want early warning signs, good and bad. Let's talk about the good first. So let's say I do a conservative forecast that we're going to do 6 or 7 tours in the month, and I report 12. Even if I was light and it's over what I actually thought I was going to do, what is the indication as it relates to the market? It's picking up. That's when you need to visit with your client and say, listen, we don't have to act like we did 2 or 3 years ago. Let's not be so quick to give free rent, TI, moving allowance. You know, we're seeing a lot of activity. Let's talk about the last recession. We forecast a conservative 7 and we do 2. What's the counsel we give our clients? Well, the counsel is we go ugly early. There is no real estate recession that lasts 15 minutes. They last years. And a good broker will always advise a landlord it's turning down, and the deals we do 2 years from now will be worse than the deals we do today. Let's get that rent roll in shape now before we lose it altogether. I mean, when you've got the sense the wheels are coming off, wheels do not come off for a short period of time in our business. You know, the good news about if you were in like investments, like stocks and stuff like that, you go broke overnight. I mean, when you go home that night, you say, we're broke. In real estate, it is going to be painful for 3 years, right? I mean, it is going to make you suffer for a long, extended period of time. Is that right? And a good broker knows when to advise a landlord. My experience in going through lots of ups and downs, we're headed to a patch that's not going to be fun. Let's get this rent roll in good shape now while we still have some pricing power, because we could lose it altogether the next year. Now, some markets recover much faster than ever expected. I look at South Florida, and to me, it's a miracle. I mean, they had a 10-year supply of condos that disappeared in 24 months. You look at Phoenix, Arizona, for example, which I mean was tough, right? That sucker, who's Phoenix? Are you Phoenix? I mean, that has really come back strong. I mean, that has really been a pleasant surprise, I would imagine, right? So sometimes markets recover much faster than expected, but you got to be in the right city, in the right marketplace to see that kind of recovery. You could be in other cities, and those that are listening, Midwest, there's a couple Midwestern cities that have not recovered as fast as you would like for them to recover, and they traditionally have.